afternoon, good evening, Jar of Marble dwellers and Jar of Marble curious. My name is Linda and this is Jar of Marbles. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you've come to join us for a little bit. This week, we'd like to talk a little bit about getting dumped. Oh no! Yes, there are a few experiences more distressing, crushing, yet humanising than full-scale rejection. The more unexpected it is, the more sudden, the more no red flags that we think they have to be seen till after the piece. That's right, makes it all the more devastating. Red flags suddenly everywhere. From the extermination of self-worth, from not being cast in the local theatre play, to the wounded pride and unsatisfied lust of sexual rejection, the feeling is a major downer, second to none. Oh yeah, I've experienced a bit of rejection in my time. Have you, Bob? I find that really hard to believe. No, it's true. There are many faces to being dumped. It can happen, and suddenly, it's as if you knew it would happen. You may have been ambivalent about making choices earlier, ignored the red flags, as many of us do, believing that love would overcome. Love will always overcome. Well, sometimes love just isn't enough. Okay. I received an email from a marble dweller, and this is the story. So he said for 5 years they were together. He hadn't imagined the day would come when, let's say, we'll call her Mia. That's the name of Carla's cat. Yes, it is. When Mia had walked into his life all those years ago, her warmth had been like a fire on a cold winter's night. She was married, yes, he knew that, clear as day, but she was also something else, uncertain, restless, full of contradictions. And there was something magnetic about that uncertainty, the way she would look at him like she was searching for something but didn't know what, the way she laughed, like every joke had some kind of little sadness buried into it. He seems a bit deep. Well, these were his observations. It was a risk he was willing to take. He said as I said, he knew that she was married and was willing to take the risk because she was such an amazing person. Or maybe in retrospect, it was a risk he couldn't resist. Oh, I like that. Yes, I like that a lot. Is it really worth an applause? Oh, why not? Why not, I say? They both dance around the idea of her leaving her husband for years, the delicate balance they'd built, the unspoken rule that she could never fully belong to him because part of her would always belong to someone else. Yet they found comfort in the ambiguity, the in-betweenness. It was something that made their connection feel like a secret, something forbidden, and that made it, I think, all the more intense, he was saying. But now, after all the time they spent together, cooking dinner, in his tiny apartment, spending lazy Sunday afternoons in the park, tangled in the sheets till 3 a.m, talking about everything and nothing, he could feel it slipping away. The moment she said it, there was no mistaking the finality in her voice. And she just said, I have to go back. And she went on to say that she thought she knew what she wanted, but turns out that she didn't. He'd tell her, look, you don't have to do this, you don't have to go back to him, but the words just fell flat. Oh, no. Yeah, she didn't need convincing. He could see that in her eyes, and the same look he'd seen when they first met, that uncertainty, but also that quiet resignation. She'd made up her mind, and she was already halfway gone, even if her body was still there, standing in his doorway, as he said, and she didn't know what she was doing anymore, she felt, and just like that, she was gone. No long goodbye, no final words, only the echo of the sound of her leaving. 5 years. That was 5 years they spent together. And in the time since, he tried to fill the silence with other things, as we do, work, friends, hobbies, anything that would keep him distracted from the ache in his chest. He told himself that it was for the best, that Mia had to figure out who she was, where she belonged. He even convinced himself that he was okay with it, that maybe they weren't meant to be, that their time had just simply run its course. But 5 years. But then the letter came just a few days ago. It wasn't much. It was just a few lines scrawled in her familiar handwriting, the words saying, I'm sorry, I'm going back to him. I never wanted to hurt you, but I think I've always been torn between two lives and I need to pick one. I don't know if I made the right choice, but I have to try. So it was as if the last 5 years had been a dream, all the moments that they'd shared, the way they'd spoken about their future, like it was something they could build together. Those moments now seemed distant, like pieces of life that was never really his to begin with. He understood. He understood her confusion. He understood her ambivalence. Hell, he felt it too. They both had known all along that Mia wasn't his to claim. So they both danced around that fact. But one day she would have to choose between the life she had and the one she built with him. And in the end, she chose the man she married. And in a strange way, that hurt more than if she had chosen him, because in the back of his mind, James, we'll call him, had always wondered what would happen if she didn't leave her husband. Would their love have been enough to fill the emptiness, or would it too have faltered? They had always been uncertain, always teetering on the edge of something that might slip away at any moment, but they chose not to look at it. And it wasn't that he didn't want her to be happy, it was just that he hadn't expected her happiness to look like this, like someone else's arms, someone else's life.
Oh, that's really sad.
Well, yeah. It wasn't that he didn't understand her need to go back to her husband, but it felt like something had been ripped out of him. Like all the moments they shared had been somehow invalidated, and maybe they had been. He felt invisible, that she had written him right out of her memory, that in a way he wrote himself out with her decision. The past 5 years have been both everything and nothing all at once. He had loved her with the intensity of someone who knew he was taking a risk, but had convinced himself it was worth it anyway. Now he just had to let go. It was time to move on. Now to go to the other end of the extreme, when you're dumped by someone that you were trying to escape from.
Who said there isn't a God, eh?
Well, that's right. Getting dumped by someone you were trying to escape can actually be a huge relief. It's like the universe just hit the easy button for you when you couldn't quite muster the strength to make the break yourself. Now, I know most of us will have experienced this one way or another when you're trying to work out how you're going to get out of it, and then they dump you. It's like, oh, all right, yay. Oh, so, yeah, that's a bit sad.
Oh, geez, yeah, that's a bit true.
Sure, there might be a few mixed emotions at first, but ultimately it's a chance to reclaim your peace and your freedom.
You were going to say freeze.
Well, I was.
Oh, yeah, give me the mixed emotion any day for sure. Hey, I really need to get into shape. Today I realised that if I got murdered, my chalk outline would be a circle. Yeah.
First, there's no more awkwardness of trying to figure out how to distance yourself without causing drama. That weight is lifted. You don't have to worry about crafting the perfect message or finding the right moment to tell them it's over.
My friend John is having a bad day. Tried to button his shirt and the button fell off. Picked up his briefcase and the handle fell off. He went to open the door and the doorknob fell off. Now he's afraid to pee.
Oh, Bob.
Get it?
Yeah, I do. So when someone kindly dumps you, it's almost like being freed from a situation where you didn't quite know how to escape. But now you can take a breath and move on without the burden of indecision. In the end, being dumped by someone you were trying to get away from isn't a failure. It's a win disguised as something else. It's the freedom to live your life without that anchor. And sometimes that's exactly what you've needed all along.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I yelled cow at a woman on a bike and she gave me the finger. Then she ploughed her bike straight into the cow. I tried.
It's not the end of the world on either count, but it is a good thing when someone does it for you.
But don't you want to know why they're dumping you? You don't care, do you?
Nope. Placing too much importance on someone else for our happiness can easily lead to the loss of our individuality. When we rely on others to define our sense of worth or joy, we begin to give up control over our own lives. It's natural to want connection and support from others, of course, but there is a fine line between relying on someone and becoming overly dependent on them for emotional fulfillment.
I end a lot of my sentences with just saying, because ending the sentence with dumbass would probably be considered offensive.
You think, Bob? When we tie happiness to another person's actions, approval or love, we can find ourselves constantly seeking validation or approval from them.
A lot of people are only alive because I shed too much hair to ever get away with murder.
Steady on, Bob.
No, really.
So it can create an unhealthy dynamic where our emotions are no longer in our hands. They're dictated by how others behave or respond.
Blow that.
That's right. And when they inevitably fall short of our expectations, which they will, we're left feeling lost, empty, or uncertain of who we are without them.
Hey, there's a strange new trend at the office.
What's that?
People putting names on food in the company. Yeah, today I had a tuna sandwich called Linda.
Oh, was that you that nicked my sandwich?
Hey, where did the term getting dumped come from?
Well, the term getting dumped, as far as I could find, in the context of relationships, likely stems from the broader use of dump as a verb, which means to, obviously, to discard or dispose of something. I never liked the word dumped. It sounds so terrible. Dump as a slang term for breaking up with someone is thought to have emerged in the mid-20th century, although the exact origin is hard to pinpoint. The imagery it evokes is one of carelessly or abruptly discarding a person, much like one would toss away something unwanted or no longer needed.
Yeah, I don't like the term either, actually.
Over time, it morphed into a more figurative usage in the context of ending a romantic connection. The expression became popular in the 1980s and the 1990s, especially with the rise of more casual language surrounding dating and relationships.
And dumping.
What do you mean?
Well, that's another term, to go and have it. No, Bob, don't go there. Well, you know what I mean? Go and have it, Bob. Essentially, getting dumped suggests the idea of being unceremoniously dropped or cast aside, which fits the feeling many people have when they experience a breakup. I've spoke to a few people who shared their thoughts in being dumped, and this is what they said. Nobody likes getting dumped, but when a breakup seems to come out of nowhere, it's a particularly distressing development. I had no idea that she wasn't happy, said Daniel, a 25-year-old living in Brisbane who was recently dumped by his girlfriend of 6 months. He said he did not think there were any problems at all. He actually thought the relationship was going along well. Don't we all?
Well, yeah, usually, and we usually see the red flags in hindsight, don't we?
Yeah.
One day, he said they were discussing their plans for a weekend away. The next day, she said it wasn't working out. Nothing had really changed as far as he could tell.
Well, as far as I can tell, this seems to be a part of the dating game.
Yeah, Bob, getting dumped is part of dating, and it's not fun for anyone, including the person doing the dumping. However, most breakups don't come out of nowhere. They're preceded by gradual changes in the relationship. Having discussions with several therapists and relationship counsellors to find out how to recognise the red flags of an incoming breakup, the way you communicate with your partner changes. One of the biggest signs is avoidance or a decrease in the amount of contact that you used to have with this person. For example, if you usually talk a few times a day and all of a sudden it's just a text or two, it could be a sign. And that according to a survey? Oh, shut up, Bob. According to a survey of 100 mental health professionals on varying dating sites, communication problems are the most common factor leading to divorce. If your partner starts avoiding communication, that's a red flag and a potential indicator that they're no longer invested in the relationship. If your partner starts acting single, it's a clear sign you're probably going to get dumped. This could be hanging out in clubs with single friends, excluding you from traditional couples activities or cropping you out of photos.
I'm thinking the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, granted, most people won't actually crop their significant others out of photos until they're actually gone through with the breakup. But if you suddenly disappear from your partner's social media profiles, consider updating your Bumble profile. So small issues start to become much more significant. If you're in a serious relationship with someone and they're not quite sure how to end it, they may start looking for an excuse. Your partner might start silly fights, pick on trivial issues to create bad feeling in order to justify them going out, for example. They could hide their aggression by saying they're teasing, and that kind of carry on will have a negative effect on the relationship.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun at all.
You could get gaslit. They'll get you upset, and when you react, then it's all your fault, giving them the reason to dump you.
Me, I'd say thank you and good. You really got to hand it to short people, mainly because they can't reach it.
To be clear, that's not an excuse. Our experts recommend addressing negative behaviour as soon as it starts to affect your relationship. If your partner's unwilling to change, it might be time to cut ties.
That's right.
You feel your partner start to pull away. Looking back, Daniel said He should have noticed that his partner was pulling away. When we got together, we had similar interests. Over the last few weeks, those interests started to change completely. The things we had enjoyed, playing tennis together, suddenly she no longer wanted to play. And they'd already played over a dozen games and had been fantastic fun. And as he said, it confused him quite a bit. But according to our experts, there was a clear sign that things weren't going well.
A good way to get out of a conversation is to take off one of your socks and hand it to the person talking.
So pay close attention to body language. Any sudden change of behaviour is reason to be concerned, and that can be especially true, say, if your partner is avoiding intimacy.
Oh no, not the old avoid intimacy, bloody joke. I don't know about that.
All right, Bob. Sometimes pulling away is literal. If your partner has conflicted feelings about the future of your relationship, they may not want to express physical affection. If you both are used to being very touchy and that behaviour stops, it's a good sign that your partner is losing interest or there's something else going on.
Oh, Godfathers, just dump me already. I can't stand the tension. Oh, God.
When in doubt, trust your intuition. The vibe of the relationship changes. Your partner will start treating you more like a friend than a lover. Sex becomes infrequent. The conversations turn casual and less flirty. And you start realising that the passion's sort of fading a bit. He or she will be more physically and emotionally distant too. There isn't anything you are ever imagining. Daniel said it was always easier to see the signs after you've gone, and isn't that true?
Oh, yeah, you always see it afterwards.
You always see the breakup. You can see the moments that you ignored or you didn't think anything of. I sort of feel like he was saying that he felt like he knew what he'd be looking for next time, and maybe he'll be able to communicate better or maybe say something, that'll save the relationship. That brings us, to a crucial point. What you do if your relationship seems to be heading down the tubes, but you don't want the relationship to end. Anytime someone feels that something is off in their relationship, it is always best to address this perception early in a very sort of non-confrontational way.
Yeah, like sort of go, yeah, what the hell's going on?
No, you don't, Bob.
Yeah, like, come on, you're acting weird. What's the story there, Glory?
No, Bob. No, the sooner the conversations happen, the less likely someone will be surprised, at the very least, of the relationship ending. #getting dumped. If you find yourself feeling hung up on your ex, you're certainly not alone. This is another aspect of it. According to one survey, 71% of people say that they think that their ex they think about their ex way too much, and more than half of newly single respondents said that thinking about their ex prevents them from finding new love. The good news is that the science can help you move on. In a 2018 study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, General, researchers tested 3 strategies for getting over a serious breakup. So they had groups of 24 heartbroken people. They had them study. Participants were asked to try a specific strategy for a set period of time, at which point researchers would measure their emotional responses while showing them pictures of their exes. And yes, we're pretty sure the study's methodology qualifies as torture.
Yeah, that sounds really bad.
But one group tried framing their exes in a negative light by thinking about the things they disliked about their former partners. The second group read supportive statements that encouraged them to accept their feelings. And the third group tried to avoid thinking about their exes by thinking about a neutral subject, say, the weather or sports. A fourth group acted as a control. They suffered normally without using any coping strategies.
So what happened?
Well, unsurprisingly, the first 3 groups fared better than the control group. Participants who were asked to think negatively about their exes were able to move on more quickly than the other groups, but also experienced worse moods overall. Those bad feelings, obviously they eventually subsided, but according to the other research from the same authors, not everybody, did as well. So if someone doesn't want to be with you, there's no point in obsessing over it. With that in mind, if you're hoping to get over your ex, you can move the process along by writing a list of their negative traits. Because isn't it true?
We often forget.
We so forget. We just remember the good times. We forget the things that
were really mean and horrible.
That's right. So if you start feeling nostalgic about the relationship, consult the list, but be prepared for the occasional mood swing. That's going to happen. Why do we romanticize someone who was really bad for us long after the breakup?
Geez, get a hobby.
I told Roger another chap about the research and asked whether he'd try it. He said no, that he was good. He was laughing and he said, I moved on pretty quickly. I had another date set up like a week later. Someone doesn't want to be with me. There's no point in obsessing over it. And he was just glad that she ended it when she did, instead of staying in an unhealthy relationship for a couple of more months. Even though he said, he really liked her and all the rest of it. He said, but being in an unhealthy relationship would have really sucked. So I thought that was oddly positive. But we can appreciate the perspective. When a relationship's over, it's over. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're able to see the warning signs before you're actually dumped, that's even better.
Yeah, be waiting on the side. Go, no, I dumped you. No, I dumped you. No, I dumped you first. No, I dumped you first.
Well, not really, but okay.
Okay, then.
Sometimes the bad occurrences in life make way for the best things that will happen to us.
True.
I know enough people who have had awful breakups and after a time they meet someone better, suited in every way, and are far happier than they have ever been in the relationship stakes. Staying miserable after a breakup is at the end of the day a bloody choice.
Yeah, but it's hard.
Yes, it is. And losing someone who does not appreciate you is a game.
Yes, also true.
You got to get good at translating some of the things that people say.
Like,
we're too alike. Translates into, you bore me.
Oh yeah, what else?
I don't want to hold you back, which is code for, you're a drag. And my feelings for you are so intense that they scare me.
And that's code for?
My feelings for you are non-existent.
Geez, I need to sharpen my pencil and do some work.
Or I wish this could have worked out between us.
Which is code for?
I wish I didn't have to have this conversation.
I'm never going to get it. I would never think of that.
Well, as they say, single and waiting is better than, taken and faking.
Oh, wow. Well, not to sound bitter, but I hope hurting me haunts her for years.
Come on, Bob. Fair sack of the salve. Let it go.
I'd say, it's hot in here, or am I being suffocated in this relationship?
Oh, Bob.
Yeah, the only thing that looks good on you is distance.
Breakups are always meant for makeups. Sometimes the relationship ends in order for you to wake up.
Oh, boy, I like that.
I know.
There it goes.
Too often our identity can get wrapped up in how we are seen by the world, say in this case, one of a two in a relationship. We want to be linked to someone. We get our tick of approval by being in a relationship. We feel valuable because we're in a relationship. So being dumped could be even more catastrophic. I'm more interested in who I am, not what I am. If our identity can be wrapped up in who we are displaying true self-love.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Well, getting dumped is like finding out the ice cream machine at McDonald's is broken.
Surely not the ice cream machine.
It's unexpected, a little devastating, and you could be left wondering how your life got this sad. But hey, let's not wallow in it too long. Sure, you might feel like you've just been kicked off the emotional roller coaster, but there is always a silver lining.
There is? Please let there be a silver lining.
Here's the thing, Bob. Once you've gotten the whole you need to talk speech and had the whole heartache fest, the only thing left to do is to get back up, dust yourself off, and start being your fabulous single self again. It's time to rediscover what you like, whether that's diving into hobbies you've ignored, finally making friends with that gym you've been pretending is a place for other people, or just taking naps in places you wouldn't normally nap, like your boss's office. Just kidding, or am I?
As I say at my men's club, as long as everything is exactly the way I want it, I'm totally flexible.
I bet, Bob.
Yeah.
Moving forward means remembering that it's not the end of the world. It's just a new chapter, and sometimes that chapter involves ice cream and Netflix. Sometimes it's an awkward first date where you pretend you don't still check your ex's social media. Come on, we've all done it. And we have many new chapters in life for a myriad of reasons. So here's to getting dumped, learning something new, and ultimately becoming the superhero version of yourself. Capes and all, you've got this.
This sounds like farewell.
Well, yes it is, Bob.
Oh, do we have to?
Yes, but we will be back next week. So, say good day to the family for me, give them off a donation, and we'll see you next time, okay? Okay then, bye.
Bye!